Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Ranieri, and I'm with the company Matchware. And today, I will be presenting our MindView mind mapping software. As Rosemary had mentioned, I have my colleague Brandon Conrad on the phone. Just in case there's any really technical questions that I can't handle, I'll then defer to him to help.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through my mind map here and really show you the functionality of our software and really how our software is improving students' reading comprehension and writing skills. Just so you know, I'm from Massachusetts. We have a tendency to talk really, really fast. So feel free to let me know if I'm going too fast. And I also had a double shot of espresso, so that probably is not going to help the cause either. So to give you a little background to myself, I'm originally, like I said, from Mass. I worked in the education vertical for 3 different institutions, worked with some really severe physical disabilities. I worked with just regular learning disabilities, so pretty much both sides of the spectrum there. And so when I moved down to Tampa, I interviewed with Matchware, and I saw our software. And it was really a no-brainer to join the team and really try to educate the field and everybody about how powerful our tool is. And so to kind of give you a little background to Matchware, we've been around since 1992. We've been developing our mind mapping software for about 13, 14 years now. And so probably for the first 8 years, pretty much anybody was using the software. But for the last maybe 5, 6 years, what we really saw is a lot of students with learning disabilities like dyslexia, Asperger's, autism, ADHD, just to name a few, really optimize our tool. And the reason why they're optimizing our tool is that it's going to help them overcome difficulties or complications with sequencing data, short-term memory, communication, I think I said sequencing data, in addition to other benefits or complications that they run into. And so our goal is to help overcome those obstacles for them, in addition to help them improve their reading comprehension and writing skills as they continue on through the academic journey. So that's kind of a background to myself and a Matchware. If you can see my screen here, I'm going to do this presentation today as a point of view of a student. So say, for example, I came from my Writing 1 class, or I came from English class, and I was given an essay on famous authors. As you see here, I put famous authors as my core idea. And one thing I really want to, or 2 things I really want to bring to your attention is students who've been diagnosed with the disabilities I mentioned before, if they were to open up a Word document, they would run into this thing they call the blank page syndrome. And what that is that they're going to have a tough time brainstorming in a linear structure. And so that's really the power of mind mapping, is really for them to get their thoughts and ideas down organically in a non-linear fashion. And so now in the case of our software here, the second thing I want to show you is how our tool looks very similar to a Word product. Reason why that is we're partners with Microsoft, and we're integrated with Office. So essentially what's going to happen is it's going to have the same look and feel, if you will, of a Microsoft Word product. So for example, Control-C to copy or Control-V to paste. So our ultimate goal is to make this easy for the end user. Okay, so as you see here, I put famous authors as my core idea. I'm going to enter on my keyboard, and that's going to pull up a branch. So I will put down, for example, Charles Dickens. I would hit enter, enter on my keyboard. I'll do Jane Austen. Enter, enter. Ernest Hemingway. Then lastly, we'll do James Joyce. Okay. And so now what our goal is, we're going to take this core idea and we're going to develop it. We're going to build the structure for when you're ready to export out to Word or PowerPoint. So we're going to add sub-branches, pictures, colors, text, and really show the basic functionality and how to develop your structure here. And so I'm going to hit insert on my keyboard to add a sub-branch. So I'll put, let's see, I'll do early years, enter, enter, and famous works. Okay, and so now we're going to leverage that integration with Office. I'm going to left-click my mouse, drag this down here, and it's going to highlight the 2 sub-branches. So now I can go to my keyboard here, hit Control-C to copy. click on the other author, hit Control V to replicate. So very, very easy to build out this mind map. And just so you know, for individuals that may be using Dragon, we are integrated with Dragon. We have text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and also to develop those branches and sub-branches, you can actually leverage the branch and sub-branch ribbon icons on the ribbons up here as well. Right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a numbering scheme to this mind map. And a numbering scheme is important for the fact that it's going to create, or it's going to help further sequence the data for those individuals, but it's going to create the hierarchy. And what I mean by the hierarchy is going to create the linear structure for when you export out to Word. So I'll come here to my numbering scheme in the ribbon. I'll click the drop down, and then I'll add my numbering scheme. And so now you see this is now in order, in clockwise order. And what we did here is, so Dickens is a main branch, but when you export it out to Word, it will then become a main header. Early Years is a sub-branch. It will now become a subheader when you export out. So this is essentially telling you how the essay is going to start, where it will flow, and how it will end. So that's really the importance of that numbering scheme. So you're developing that linear structure. Just so you know, guys, if you have any questions throughout this this presentation, feel free to ask. This is meant to be interactive. I'd rather answer your questions as we're going and post them at the end just in case you may forget. So feel free to ask away, okay? So now what I want to do to this mind map is really add some extra stimulus to this. So I'll be adding pictures and color. And for those who, for those individuals who have short-term memory complications, this is important because it's going to help trigger their memory recall, because it's going to be pulling or utilizing both sides of their brain. What I'm going to do here is add some pictures to this, right? So as you see here, one thing I should show you before I get ahead of this is that we can leverage the Microsoft integration by drag and drop here. And so you can get your thoughts down relatively easily, and then you can click here and reorganize it wherever you'd like. Okay? So, and just so you know, it will automatically renumber for you. So I wanted to show you that before I hopped into the picture side of things. So I'm going to click on Austin, and I'm going to go to my Multimedia Catalog over here to the right. And so this pulls up our Multimedia Catalog that has around 2,000 royalty-free images that you can utilize. And the great thing about the Multimedia Catalog is that for those individuals that are using screen readers like JAWS, our pictures are tagged the right way. So it will say, for example, janeausten.jpg, or however the way it should be read. Just so you know, I just want to throw that a little fun fact out there for you. So I'll type in Austin in the search bar, hit enter. Now you see we have this picture that populates. So what I'll now do is drag and drop this over to the branch here, and it automatically associates itself to that branch. Okay? And so our goal is not to limit the individual or the end user to what's in our Multimedia Catalog as far as adding information to this. So if I were to click Hemingway, and say, for example, I was working on my essay prior to even using MindView, and I have stuff in my local drive, I can access that. So I can click here on Hemingway, go to Branch Picture. This will pull up my local drive here. So I can click here on Ernest Hemingway's picture, open, and this picture is going to resize itself and associate itself to Ernest Hemingway's branch. So once again, giving that student a lot more flexibility than just our Multimedia Catalog. And now we also have another feature. It's our capture tool. And so what I can do now is, for example, click on James Joyce, and I can either capture images or text by clicking here. So let's see here. I'll go to Wikipedia, James. There we go. And I'm going to pull a picture here. Okay. And so now I click this Image tab. And it's like a clip art type of tool or a snipping type of tool. So I'll just come here, capture that. And what this is now doing, it's taking all the information from where you got this picture. So it's going to tell you that it pulled, it's going to tell you where it got the information. For example, it got it from Wikipedia on June 15, 2016 at a certain time. We know how often websites are changing, That's why we put that in there, so you can know when you got it and where you got it from. So as you see here, multiple ways to add some images to this. So the next thing I want to do, I want to piggyback off of adding pictures to this mind map. Let's add some colors to this. Once again, by adding the extra stimulus, it's going to trigger memory recall. It's going to be very beneficial for those individuals with short-term memory complications. And so I'm going to click here on Austin. I'm going to go to my Format tab. I'll go to the Fill Color icon. And then we'll just give her this yellow color here. And now, what if I wanted to maybe have Hemingway, Joyce, and Dickens a certain color, right? So I click on Hemingway. I can then hold down the Control key and click on the other branches. And I'll obviously do the same step. So I'll go to Fill Color, and we'll give them maybe this blue here. Okay. So once again, it's very easy to add this color. It's important for those individuals to trigger their memory recall. So that additional stimulus is very, very important. And the last thing I really want to show you is you can actually change the background. So for those individuals who've been diagnosed with dyslexia, you can change the background. And for those individuals, they know what color works best for them. But I'll just show you how to do that. So I'll click here on the background, and go to Design. Then if I come over here to Page Color, I'll use the drop down, and then I'll change the background there. So very, very easy to add some extra stimulus as well as change the background. And now the last thing I want to show you before I go to a more developed template is how easy it is to add some text to this mind map. So if you notice here, I've clicked on Early Years for Jane Austen. I'm going to go to my text node editor and then click New. If you pay attention back up to the ribbon here, it looks exactly like a Word product. And the thing is, it has the same feel as a Word product when you're typing down here. So I can maybe put in here, Jane Austen was born in 1775. Okay. And now what I'll do here, I'll hit the X. I apologize for the phone ringing in the background. And if you notice, we have this attachment icon. So I'll hover above there. I'll click on this. And here's your information that you've added. So very, very easy to build out, add additional information, but really build out the function or the structure of this mind map. So to kind of reiterate what we did, we added that core idea. We added our branches, sub-branches, pictures, colors, and text. Real simple and very easy to work around it. Okay.
And this is Brandon. I'm with Matchware too, and with Rich. You can actually do that because there's an outline view that's built into the software. And you can actually do a split screen. So if I wanted to move this to a split screen and maybe move this section to an outline view, then you would have an outline view plus that graphics. And I think what you're going to see is what the student actually is doing is they're creating the outline of the Word document. So Rich is going to show you that this is going to export over to Word so that this main branch becomes a heading, and any content will go under that heading. This just kind of helps with that kind of blank page syndrome where a lot of students and even adults don't brainstorm in a linear fashion or an outline view very well.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Okay, here. So let me just bring this to the full screen. Perfect. Okay, so great question, by the way. So now what I'm going to do here in this piece of the demonstration is show you a few really important features that we like here. First one is our predictive text functionality. So for those individuals who are familiar with Text Help Read and Write Gold, we're partners with them. And the reason being is that they have one of the most complete databases because their tool can recognize homonyms as well as homophones. So for those students who spell words based off of how they sound, or for those students who have been diagnosed with dyslexia, they transpose the letter or words themselves. And so what their tool is going to do is recognize that and then suggest the right spelling. This feature I really love because when I was teaching English, I had a lot of students who were really getting penalized in their grammatical errors for the fact that they were spelling words based off how they sound. So when I saw this, I called them up immediately, and they absolutely loved it. And so I'm going to hit Insert on my keyboard here. I'm going to add, let me see here, I'm going to go to Insert up here. I'm sorry, Review. I'm going to go to Review on my ribbon, go to the drop-down, then turn on Predictive Text. And so I'm going to put the sentence in, there are 6 books in our catalog, and I'm going to spell there in catalog wrong. So if I go to there, as you see, the top suggestion is the right suggestion, so I'll use my down arrow key on my keyboard. There are 6 books in her catalog. And once again, the top sentence is the correct sentence, so use my down arrow key to highlight it, hit Enter, and then put a period behind that. So once again, the reason why that is important is going to help those students eliminate a lot of those grammatical errors and really help improve their grades at the end of the day. I mean, also what we're seeing this used for is for those individuals, maybe English is a second language for them. They actually can be beneficial for them as well using this tool. So very, very powerful feature here. The next piece I want to show you is our citation and referencing tool. I don't know about any of you on the phone but or on the line here at the webinar. It's a very complex process. Personally, I never really liked it. Maybe that's why I was never really good at it. But it's a complex process. And just only imagine throwing those learning disabilities into the mix and how complex that really is for those individuals. And so our overall objective, like I said before, is to make this easy for them. And so let me see here. I'm going to do Insert. I will do Oliver Twist here. And I'm going to access my text note editor so I can add a quote. All right. And so to go back to what I was saying about making it easy, so there are higher education institutions that use EndNote 8, for example. It's a great tool, but for those individuals who have maybe attention deficit disorder or have a tough time focusing, if they're using programs where you're hopping back and forth, ultimately what that's going to do, it's going to pull away from the focus of the famous author's essay. And so we wanted to eliminate that. So we built our tool into the software where the student is going to stay right here and it's not going to leave our software at all. So I'll come here and I'll do maybe, let's see, please, sir, I want some more. Okay. And now at this point, we broke this down into 2 steps. So I'm going to go here to my citation icon. I'm going to click the drop down. The first step is manage sources. And the second step is insert citation. So click here. And this is going to open up WorldCat. And WorldCat, if you're not familiar with WorldCat, it's an online library that gives you access to over 2 billion online publications that you can leverage. And the great thing is you get this for free as well. So the student can either search by ISBN, title, or author. So I can put Oliver Twist here. Hit search. And this is going to pull up anything relevant to Oliver Twist, so books, films, magazines, journals. And then I can select the right one, so I'll just come here, hit OK, and then OK. The second step is self-explanatory, so I'll go to citation. I'll hit the insert citation. I'm going to select my source, and then say if it was on page 45, you can plug that in, and then hit insert. And so just think how easy we made this for the student, eliminating a lot of unnecessary steps they would have to do, and then ultimately getting them a citation down after that quote. And usually what I hear after this as far as questions, I'm sure we'll probably get one, is this isn't an academic format.
Hey Rich. Yeah, sure. Hey, this is Brandon with Matchware again. I just wanted to point out that everything that Rich is doing with the keyboard and mouse is in the software everything is fully integrated with Dragon. So everything can be controlled in the software with Dragon as well. Just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks. And so, as I was saying, with these students, a lot of higher education institutions are junior high and middle school. After I show that citation piece, they ask, can you do this in an academic format like APA, MLA, Harvard, Chicago? And the thing is that we can. And so all I need to do here is click on the X here. All right? And I'm going to show you my exports here. And so this is probably the most powerful piece of our demonstration is our export feature. And so for this instance, I'm going to export out to Word. So I'll click here on Word. I go to Advanced Word to export. And if you notice, we have a bunch of templates. But for those individuals who might be inquiring about academic formats, APA, Harvard, MLA, Chicago. But we also have additional formats they can use as well. Okay. So for this demonstration, I'll just choose MLA. I'm going to go to the General tab here. And so at this point, this is really where you're customizing your export. So for example, you're going to select or deselect what you want to add or take out. And then I'll export. Okay, let's save it.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
I noticed there was a few questions here in the chat.
I didn't see that.
Yep. Sandra, and to answer your question about exporting it out, that's what Rich is doing right now. He's going to show you that it exports over to Word and exports over to PowerPoint for reports or presentation. And the other question about, does the software read aloud? Yes, it does. There is a narrate function in the Assistive Technology version that it'll not only read the entire map, like the branches and sub-branches, but it'll also read what's in the text note editor. I apologize. I'll pay a little bit more attention to that chat. Sorry to answer those a little bit late.
Sorry about that, guys. And great questions, by the way. Keep them coming if you have them. And so now you see here, we have this export out here. As you can see on my screen, we have the interactive table of contents. So everything in this export is going to be in MLA format. But the cool thing is, if I were to hold down Control here, this now becomes interactive. So I can then click on that and jump down to that section. And so as you see here, that numbering scheme that we mentioned in the beginning, this is now, that main branch is now the main header. The sub-branch earlier is now a subheader. This picture that we've added from our Multimedia Catalog is tagged the right way, even in that export. So it's going to be read by JAWS or any screen reader the right way.
And Rich, I might add here, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but we here at Matchware obviously know that, if you're in higher education like college, university, or even high school, that you're probably not going to export this with all the images. But we just wanted to show you what it looks like when everything's exported over to Word. But in that export dialog, you can choose not to have the images come over. You can really customize how you want this Word document to look based upon the assignment.
And so now, as you see here, the screen reader, if you're using one, you can read it. And then the great thing is, with our software here, you can come into this, add additional information. And with so we have two versions. Our desktop version is the one I'm showing you today. With our desktop version, you can actually import this back into your mind map. It'll create a new mind map with any changes you make. So you have a two-way street there. And so now, if we keep on scrolling down, just look how ready to hand in this essay is. Once again, higher education, it's frowned upon to add pictures. I probably would have tried if I could have in college. Here's your quote in MLA format. Then I'll get down to the bibliography page here to show you that that's also in MLA. Okay, so just think. For those who've done papers, I speak with educational institutions all the time. People who have done their master's and thesis, they're always like, "Where were you when I was in school?" It eliminates a lot of the complexities that they'd run into, and so such a powerful piece of our demonstration. So, seeing that there hasn't been any questions on this export, what I'm going to now do is go back to my MindView map here. and I'm going to export this out to PowerPoint. It's very simple. It's the same steps you take as if you're doing a Word export. So just go to the icon, go to Advanced PowerPoint Export. And there's about like 23, 24 templates to choose from. And if you're working at an institution in which you need your own personalized, like for example, your own work template, you can upload your own. So we see here a bunch of different templates. Okay, so let me go back up to something I haven't used in a while. So I'll go to Doodle here. I'm then going to go to General. And as you see here, this is really where you're going to customize the export like I mentioned for that Word export. So then I'll hit Export here. Save. Okay. And now at this point, for any end user using this, regardless if it's students, they're going to be using this for presentations. They're going to be using these for cue cards. They can create PDFs and then create a PowerPoint. They could also do study guides, but for faculty and staff, I'm sure there's a lot of presentation being done. They can use these for themselves. Imagine going in there every day, creating your slides individually, just how time-consuming that is. So what I like to say is do your work in the mind map. Let us do the heavy lifting by exporting it out to PowerPoint. Once again, here is the numbering scheme that we're following here. If I wanted to maybe move this picture over, I can. Here's your export to Word or to PowerPoint.
And this is Brandon. I think it's good to note as well. Obviously, it's really good for this Office integration. But I think it's good to know that there's different views that are built into the software as well. So here at Matchware, we really promote the online or the mind map because it really engages both sides of the brain. But sometimes there are people that think in a little bit more of a linear fashion. So Rich will show you real quick how to change the different view to either like a top-down view, a left-right view, because some people process data differently. So there are different views built in.
Just so you know, you can actually leverage that by just right-clicking on your mouse, or you can go, let's see here, go to View as well. But let's see here. So go to right-click, do View Map As. Here you have
maybe it's the left-right.
Rich. Nope. Right. Okay, here we go. All right.
And there's an outline view built in. We're not going to get into it on this presentation because of time constraints. You can also add time information to these maps and then turn it into a timeline as well. So if a student is tracking semester events like work and tests and social events, they can put that in a timeline. They can brainstorm it in a mind map and then put it in a timeline. But I just want to kind of point that out as well. And then Rich is going to finish up and show the final kind of organizational part of it. So go ahead, Rich.
Okay, cool. And so, let me go back here to the view. Let me see, I just got to change the view. All right, here we go. Okay, cool. So now you see here, this is an introduction to accounting and finance mind map that we have here. We had a student go in there and develop this for us. What it's really showing you is that, so what they did, they came in here, lecture 1, they made that branch. These 2 sub-branches were the topics being discussed that day. Lecture 2, 2 topics being discussed that day. So what essentially is happening here is they're developing a virtual notebook in which they can be better prepared for midterms and finals. And the cool thing is that they can add attachments to this very easily. So if I hover over my mouse here, you can see that we have, for example, maybe the professor has syllabus that he has online that you can upload. So you can attach your syllabus. You can come down here and attach the PowerPoint slides. You can also go back to that text note editor that we showed, and you can type all your notes in there manually if you'd like. And then maybe, for example, you want to attach a hyperlink to Blackboard, which will, you click on there and you go back to that class Blackboard. Or lastly, what if you're not a strong note taker? Well, you can actually record what the professor is saying and then add that attachment. And just so you see, it's very easy to add an attachment. So I'll just click on the branch here.
I just wanted to remind you we've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll finish up here, and then we'll see if we can take a few minutes for questioning.
Okay, cool. So add some attachments here. Click on there. We'll go to, let's see here, go to the assets. We'll add this marketing budget plan, open, and within seconds, that is added here. So now for that student, and just so you know, there isn't a set number of attachments. That's really another differentiator between us and any other mind mapping tool. You can attach any media, and now think of it. The students can leverage this for group projects and studying, but now teachers, professors, faculty, and staff can leverage it to, for planning, for their lesson plans, what have you. So ultimately, a very, very strong central hub of information where you can access information whenever you need it. So yeah, we have a couple minutes here, so if you have some questions, feel free to fire away.
And Rich, before the questions start coming up, why don't you go ahead and put your email up on one of the branches? Because if you guys are interested in downloading a demo version or kind of playing around, kicking the tires on the software, go ahead and email Rich at the email address. Might zoom in on that a little bit, Rich. At his email address there, and we'll send over a link for a 30-day trial to the full version. That's not available on our website. So again, email Rich there, and we'll send you over a free link. With that being said, I think Rich did a really good job of kind of showing you the benefits of mind mapping. But the real power of this software comes in that office integration. So being able to brainstorm in a nonlinear fashion and then be able to export it out into some academic formats, plus the added advantage of it being an organizational tool as well. So again, with that, any questions either through chat or just in general? Another thing to note, Rich was showing you the desktop application, which is available both on the Mac and the Windows environment. There's also an online option. So if you like more web-based software, we've got that option for you. And the benefits of the web-based software is that it can be accessed anywhere on any device. So kind of gone are the days of, is it Mac, is it Windows, is it a tablet, is it Android? It can be accessed anywhere. So that's an option for you as well. One question we do get quite a bit at the end of this is, the big question of how much it is. So the desktop application is $379 for the Windows version and $349 for the Mac version. One thing to note with that is a one-time fee. It's not a yearly fee. So we got about 1 more minute left. Be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Yep, so Sandra had a question about the cost. All right, yours just shut down, Rich, but it's not a big deal. We're at the middle ending there. Yeah, so the cost of the software is $379 for the Windows version, $359 for the Mac version. It is a one-time fee. It's not a yearly fee. Yeah, other universities using the product, quite a few.
Sacramento State, we have a bunch of schools, Loyola, Johns Hopkins. We have a bunch of schools out west that are currently evaluating our software, like USC, Cal Poly, just to name a few off the top of my head.
Yeah, and one thing to note that, as Rich said, the company's been around 22 years. The software has been around for about 12 or 13 years. And for the first 8 years of the software, we primarily focused on the educational market, not only university, but K through 12. And in the last 5 years or so, we've solely focused on putting features in for students with learning disabilities and general disabilities as well. So we've got a pretty long standing, not only here in the U.S., but also in Europe in the educational market. And feel free to contact us if you want more information about the software or if you have any general questions. But I think that puts us right at a minute over, and I want to be respectful to the other presenters. So any other questions, please email us, and we definitely appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you so much, guys, and I appreciate Rosemary for giving us the opportunity to educate everybody on our software.
So I'm from Northern California, originally from the UK. My accent is from England, not Australia as most people think. I've been over here since 2001. I have an assistive technology company based in Northern California, and we are the distributors for audio Notetaker from Samson, which is a UK company. So I will move on to the first slide. The first one is an agenda here, and I'll just run through how we're going to go through the program. We're going to have an introduction to who Samson are. We're going to talk about the note-taking problems, why note-taking is hard, and why it is so important, and the reasons that students struggle with taking notes. And then we're going to look at some of the strategies that people are already using, the way that we traditionally do note-taking accommodations, especially in college and school, alternative approaches, and then our approach, and we'll follow up with a demonstration, which is I've taken a video that I think will outline how audio Notetaker works. And I also have a student testimonial from one of the students that's been using it. And then we'll follow up at the end with some questions and answers. If anybody wants to ask any questions during the presentation, go ahead. Unfortunately, I am on my own, so I may not be able to pay attention to both talking to you and looking at the chat box, but I'll see what I can do. I may just answer the questions at the end. Okay, so let's go to the first slide. Okay, who are Samson? Founded in 2007, it's a British company, and for those of you who may not be able to see the slide that I have here, the slide has a very pretty picture of all the pretty people from the company in the UK. I'm not in the picture, so don't try looking for me. The goal has always been to enable students to process information in a way that suits their unique abilities. We've always worked on the software as being a software that primarily was designed for students who have learning differences, but to be quite honest, it's a piece of software that actually can be used by all students. They say they're friendly. I generally think they are friendly, and they love what they do. And at the moment, we have just over 100,000 users worldwide. Predominantly, most of that was in the UK, although the US market is a growing market. They've won a number of awards. You may be familiar with the BET Awards, but that's a British organisation, British education organisation. They won awards last year for their software. So they're proving pretty successful. The market in the UK is very different to the market in the US, though. So, and the way that students who go to college get funding is very different in the UK as well. Okay, so I've now put up a slide. It says defining the note-taker problem, and then you'll find on a lot of these slides is our pretty logo, which is a microphone. Why do students take notes? If we think about it, the main reason that students take notes is to capture information and then to take that information and utilize it for projects that they're working on. On the slide here, we have an image of capturing the information using a computer, and then the synthesis is taking that information and utilizing it. It has been proven that taking notes is very, very important in the learning process. So, as I said, note-taking is very, very important. It has been proven that the better your notes are that you take, the better you will be as a student and the more successful you will be as a student. I know this for myself because I know that my daughter, who's at university at the moment, doesn't take great notes and she struggles therefore. So it's important that you work on taking notes. They help improve productivity. They help you organize yourself better. You get better retention, and you get better outcomes long term. And as I said, studies have shown often that quality notes or quality note-taking can relate to academic success. We have a number of quotes here from some famous people. I will read them out for those of you. Accurate and complete notes are critical for students to be successful in content area classes. That's by J.R. Boyle in 2012. The highly positive relationship between note-taking for both organizational points and details and achievement was confirmed correlationally. That's a big word. That was by somebody called B.S. Titsworth in 2004. If information is recorded poorly in their notes, students will more likely perform poorly on tests. Amount of note-taking is related to academic achievement. Again, that's from Kira. So you can see that people realize that taking notes is really, really important. Not only is taking notes really important for academic success, but also reviewing your notes is part of academic success. We have found through studies that have been done that unfortunately lots of students will take notes, but lots of students actually never look at their notes again. They believe that just by taking notes that they will retain it better, and that's actually not true. Note-taking is about taking notes and also then reviewing your notes again. Next slide. Okay, for a lot of the students and the people that we work with who have learning differences, it's very hard taking good notes. And we have another quote here, and this is from Pierlat in 2005. Note-taking is a highly complex task placing more burden on memory and processing skills than playing chess. The learner has to simultaneously concentrate for extended periods of time, process visual and auditory inputs, read text, understand the material and the concepts being given to them. They have to manipulate the information in working memory while they're taking notes, identify important bits to capture, and coordinate this physical writing or typing of notes while under often severe time pressure. So when we're taking notes, especially in a college situation, we have all these things going on, which for anybody without a learning difference can make taking notes difficult. But for a lot of our students who have learning differences, these things totally cause issues when they're taking notes. A lot of our students with attention issues can become disconnected from the class if other things are going on, and therefore taking notes becomes difficult. They have lots of things that they're dealing with that make taking notes difficult. All these things here. Another quote here from Anderson and Ambrister in '91. Students typically capture only 11 to 70% of the key information presented in a lecture. So it also shows that typically, with our typical ways of taking notes, we often miss 30% at best of the important information from a lecture. And it's really important that when we're taking notes that we capture all the information that's important. Our students struggle with memory, concentration, sequential ordering issues, spelling, graphomotor problems, multitasking, and often anxiety. The anxiety being that you want to do as well as your peers, and you're trying to take good notes, and you want to be successful, and all these things create problems that can have note-taking issues. Here's a quote from somebody who was one of our users. I struggle with spelling. I can't write quickly enough to keep up with my lectures, and I forget what they've said. It's really stressful. And that's exactly what it's like for a lot of our students with learning differences, is that it's a very stressful situation to be in. And often with our students who have learning differences, as soon as they start writing notes, they become more focused on the writing good notes as opposed to being in the lecture and listening to what the lecturer says. And this is when the key times are that they miss information that's important. So, our product will accommodate a range of needs. As I said, this product could be used by any student, but these are the type of learning differences that people will utilize audio note-taking for. People who have physical impairments. On this list here is low vision. Low vision being somebody who is not severely vision impaired. It's not really a product, I'll say right off now, for somebody who is blind, although I have had some blind students use it, but it's not easy for them to utilize. They have to utilize it with the help of somebody else. So it's possible to use it, but it's not ideal. Erlen syndrome, somebody who's hard of hearing, somebody with dyslexia, dysgraphia, auditory processing disorders, dyspraxia, ADD, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD. We also have another little thing here that says my notes are missing lots of information which gets me down. Again, reiterating the fact that sometimes students who don't take good notes will miss out important information, and then when they go back to their notes to read them, they realize there's something missing from it, but once you've written your notes after a lecture, you can't get them back again. So, how do we solve the note-taking problem? Traditionally, in colleges, universities, in education, we do two things. We have human note takers and we have peer note takers, and we share the peer notes that the peer note takers are taking. This can be issues for students who have a print disability, in other words, they struggle with reading other people's writing, and it doesn't create engagement. It does not create interaction within the class. It doesn't create active learning. And active learning is a key aspect of student engagement. And it's reduced when students are not directly involved in the process of collecting and sorting the information of their notes. Note-taking helps students encode information into memory, because students must pay attention to, organize and interpret lecture information. And again, that's from somebody called Bretzing and Kulhavi. It is from 1979, but I'm sure it's still relevant today. Students with disabilities are often passive learners. And this comes back to the fact that they're so used to not being engaged in class that they actually don't gain the information that they need in class. And then the thing at the bottom says, combining passive notes and passive learning strategies poses a serious negative educational consequence. Basically saying that as students who have a learning difference, we need to be engaged in class. The traditional way of accommodating us is to allow somebody else to do everything for us. And that is not creating independence, it's not creating the learning process that all other students go through. The alternative approaches that are used nowadays, so we have the peer note takers, in other words, a human in the class. Typically, that doesn't work well. I know of at least one university I work with, where UC Berkeley, where they had one peer note taker taking notes for 8 students within that class. There is no way it's possible that one student can take the correct notes for 8 different individuals, because we are all different individuals and we all learn differently and we all see important information differently. So what ends up happening is that you get the notes from a student and who's been writing them for you, and he missed all the important things that you saw because they weren't important to him. Often a lot of the peer note takers that are used in colleges and universities are the very best students. They're the ones that are happy to take the notes. And then what happens then, if you're a typical mid-range student who struggles and you're getting notes from a student who doesn't struggle in this particular class, the chances are the notes are not going to be complete enough for you, because the notes that they need are going to be much smaller than the notes that you need. The other approaches that people use is digital recording. Digital recording is fantastic, because if you use a digital recorder, you record the whole lecture. The great thing about having a whole lecture recorded is the fact that you are not going to miss out on any information whatsoever during that period of time. So if your lecture's an hour long, you know if you've recorded for an hour, you have every single part of the information that you need there. The problem with digital recording is, generally, it's very hard to find the important information because there's no way in these products or in the softwares for digital recording that you can easily say that part of the information was important to then find it very quickly. What ends up happening is students record an hour lecture and then 9 times out of 10 they can't be bothered to go back and listen to it because it means a lot of fast forwarding, rewinding, it takes them a long time to get the important information. They just don't bother. So somebody came up with another product that hopefully fixed that issue, and that was the LiveScribe pen, which I'm sure lots of people are familiar with. The LiveScribe pen is a digital recording pen that you have special paper that you write your notes on, and it records at the same time, and when you go back to your special pad with your paper and you tap on the things you've written, it will play the recording of the lecture at that point. That's great. But long term, we have found a lot of universities and colleges have found 2 things with that product. One, it's very, very expensive to upkeep because the pens generally last 1 to 2 years before they need to be replaced or get broken. Because it's a piece of hardware, when they lend them or they give them to students, they can get lost or they don't get returned. When they lend the pen to a student, they've lost the ability to lend it to any other students. So if that student is lent a pen and they don't use it for a whole semester, you've lost the use of that pen for the whole semester. The other thing we have found, again with students with learning differences, is they want to write really good notes. So when they're using a LiveScribe pen, again, the issue comes that as soon as they start writing notes in class, they become distracted from listening in the class, and then they all start writing their notes down on the paper. And again, that same issue arises where they're paying too much attention to what they're writing with their LiveScribe pen and not paying attention to what the class is, and they might miss out some important information. So those are the typical electronic solutions that people are at the moment using, as well as peer note-taking. Why did we make Audio Notetaker? And there's a picture here of a student in class with their head down, feeling very bad for themselves in the middle of class because obviously they're struggling with taking their notes. The core premise of Audio Notetaker is you do not have to read and write to be able to learn. In other words, you do not have to be able to write notes in a class during the lecture to be able to learn. The solution that we provided is a software that is a digital recording software, but instead of it being a waveform or a typical recording, if you see on computers, if you're recording audio, will be a waveform. It'll be a line that goes along and it'll go up and down in ziggity-zaggity lines as you're recording. What our software does is it visualizes the spoken phrases as bars. And what we've tried to do with this slide here is to make you understand the premise of what we're doing, is that as somebody speaks, we then create these bars. So instead of being able to see a wiggly-waggly wave line that goes up and down, you actually see these segments, which is basically a visual representation of the recording as you're recording the lecture. And then you'll see that there's a number of different colors here, which means that you're actually able to record and color the audio as you're recording, so that when you come back to your recording at a later date, you'll actually find it much easier to know what bits you thought were important and what bits weren't important. Our approach in the learning and using Audio Notetaker here, I have a diagram here of our approach and how we do it. We first start off by capturing the information. In other words, we record the audio. Now, we're either recording the audio using our computer software, or we're using one of our companion recorder apps on either an Android platform or an iOS platform. So we're capturing the information. We're then annotating the information. Basically what we're doing is we can add the slides and the PowerPoint in presentations from the lecturer if that helps us. We can organize our audio. In other words, we can take parts of our audio, we can extract it, we can import it, we can color coordinate it, so we can actually have sections of the audio and just pull out all the stuff that we thought was important and then just watch the important information. And we can color highlight audio. In other words, we can very easily annotate, in other words, put a highlight on the important stuff. So when we come back to it, it's much easier to find the important stuff as opposed to spending a whole hour listening to an hour lecture again. Often with lectures, we can actually have students will only need to review maybe 10 to 15 minutes of the information. And then what we do with our software is it's not just about recording the software. Like any good note-taking, it's all very well to be able to actually take the information and record the information, but you actually then have to actually read the information afterwards. So we then have a way of reviewing the information within the audio note-taker software, which allows us to listen to the important parts again, and then we can summarize everything into notes. And then finally, it's all about engaging with the information, and we can do much more. It's very difficult within the short period of time here for me to show you everything that Audio Notetaker can do, but generally it's a whole learning product that can do way more than most students may necessarily want to do with it. But in essence, it's extremely productive at the note-taking part of the process. You can develop study skills with Samson. It's a multi-sensory workspace, so it enables text input, text output, text-to-speech input, text-to-speech output, and it helps students engage effectively. It can help use it for brainstorming, they can use it for presentation practice, they can use it for essay composition, revision, Cornell notes, and research. Again, there's so much you can do with this product. It's impossible within a very short space of time here to cover everything, but it can do way more than just audio recording of a lecture. So we're now going to go on to a demonstration. Now, I decided to try and choose one of the videos we use. We have an awful lot of videos available to people. If you're somebody who wants to learn more about the product and see some of the other videos we have of users and of how to use the different tools, we actually have a YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com and then type in Audio Notetaker in the search bar, it'll take you through to our YouTube channel. And there are all these videos. So next we need to play the video.
1. Capture. How to take live recordings and import audio files. Sonosant Audio Notetaker provides an interactive workspace where you can capture, organise and communicate information and ideas as speech, text and images. Whether you're taking notes from a presentation, meeting or interview, brainstorming and planning, or composing written work, we think that the smartest way to use our software is to follow 4 simple steps: capture, annotate, review and engage. The first step is to capture, which is most easily done by recording. There are lots of things you may wish to record, and many different options for recording them. We recommend that you use our software to take live recordings of lectures, meetings, classroom activities, brainstorm sessions and interviews. That way, you can quickly annotate your audio as you record, which will give you a head start when you come to work with your projects later. Start by opening a blank Audio Notetaker project from the Home tab and press Record. Instead of displaying audio as a timeline or as a waveform, Sonosant displays each phrase of speech as a coloured chunk in the audio pane, with spaces in between. These chunks each contain a single phrase. You'll find that this makes it easy to navigate, annotate, and organise your audio. When you are recording, you should break up your audio into sections, which are like paragraphs. To do this, use the Sections button, or press Enter on your keyboard while your cursor is in the audio pane. Alternatively, record on your mobile device. Sonosant Recorder is our free companion app for recording and annotating. Use it to capture and annotate high-quality recordings. You can open these files in Audio Notetaker to work with your recording later. You may want to record something that is playing on your computer, for example, a video. To record an online presentation, click the Recording from Speakers Only option on the Home tab. You can also capture stills from videos as you record with the Image Capture tool. You can record what is playing on your computer and what is being picked up through your computer's microphone by selecting Recording from Mic and Speakers. The software displays each input separately, which means you can easily differentiate who is speaking. Remember that you can also change how you record from within a project using the Record drop-down menu. Finally, you can also import audio into Audio Notetaker from the Home tab. Import files saved to your computer, or files transferred from another device, such as a digital recorder. We offer special support for various models of digital recorders. To dig deeper into what you can do with our software, click the Resources link in the help bar, or visit our website. Next, learn how to add meaning to your projects by making annotations while recording.
Thank you for that. I hope that gives an overview of how the product works. It's a very simple product to use, in essence. As you can see from that, there are several different ways you can actually record. Some students will choose to record using the software on their computer. Others will use the recording app on an iOS or an Android device. The important thing to make people aware is that the Android recorder and the iOS recorder are just recording tools. You will then have to transfer the recording that you make to the software on the computer, because the software on your computer, which will allow you to actually review the information correctly and then start writing your notes that go along with that. So the next slide we're going to do, I think, is the student testimonial.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Ebony, and I'm 18 years old. I attend high school during the day, and I come to El Camino at night.
What do you find difficult about school?
I find it hard to focus in school. I like to learn, but it's hard to pay attention.
Can you give me an example?
Usually when my teacher's talking, it's not that I don't care, it's just hard to stay focused, like I said, so I end up doing something totally opposite.
What is it about Audio Notetaker that you like and why?
I like Audio Notetaker because I could do so much on it rather than just one thing, kind of like sitting in class and listening. Well, it makes me actually do stuff that's more interactive, but to myself.
Because you're using the app. Can you give an example how it works with the app?
Sure. Well, I actually have it right here. So, this is an app. So I click on it, and to record, I press this button. And it allows me to just listen to whatever my teacher's saying, and it just goes right here in the little box. But I can highlight it depending on how important I think it is, so I'll change the color however many times I'd like. And then I can write notes here, or I could take a picture of whatever my professor has.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
How do you know it's working for you?
I think it's working for me personally because it forces me to do something in class rather than just sitting there listening. I'm just a person, I like to stay on the go because in my head things are always going really fast paced. So if someone's just sitting in front of me talking, it's not necessarily going through to me. So I take the initiative to actually write it down or like do little smaller activities on the activity.
What do you say to your teachers about using your phone to take notes?
Well, first I explain it to my teachers that I have ADHD and like how that works with my brain and things like that. And then they usually understand. I have paperwork for it so that they don't mind. And in class it works like a charm for me because I don't get off task like everyone else does. I may look off task, but if you ask me a question, I can definitely answer it. But other kids, they don't get it. But as long as my teacher gets it, it's cool.
Okay, so that's Ebony. She's from Southern California, and she's used an Audio Notetaker for quite a few years now. Actually, I met her last year with her mum, and her mum told me that she is just going on to university, which they weren't expecting. So audio note takers actually helped her, enable her to move from being at college to going to a university now, which is awesome for her, for sure. Just so you know, here are some of the statistics from a report that we did, and we have all this information and can be made available to people. We did a survey last year of people using Audio Notetaker, and we came up with these particular results. We have bars here talking about before Audio Notetaker and after Audio Notetaker. So my notes were organized and easy to find. Before Audio Notetaker, we're talking about 30-something% here, and after Audio Notetaker, it's over 90% for these students. My notes were clear and easy to read. Again, it's down at 30%, and after using Audio Notetaker, it's up to 90%. My notes captured all of the important points. Again, we know that traditionally taking notes is low, but the great thing about Audio Notetaker is that because you're doing a digital recording, you don't miss any information. Even though you may have annotated what you thought was important, if you suddenly go back to your recording afterwards and realize that the things that you highlighted, you feel like you still missed some information, you know it's still there somewhere, it's within that recording that you made, so you don't lose any information. So again, that was over 90%. I could find the important parts of my notes, again down at 30%, with Audio Notetaker up to nearly 90%. I was confident my notes would help me study. Again, it was down at 30% before Audio Notetaker and up to 90% after. I was able to take notes independently. That was at 45%, but up to 90% for most students once they started using Audio Notetaker. I found it easy and worthwhile to take notes. You'll notice that before Audio Notetaker it was very low at 25%. After Audio Notetaker, almost up to 90%. People are finding it easier to take notes. Okay, it really works. So from our Sonocent user survey, 86% of educators believe that Audio Notetaker improves academic attainment. And in fact, students at the University of Nevada in Reno achieved an average improvement of 2 grade points with Sonocent. And this is based upon the University of Nevada, what they did there. Across a single semester of 20 students involved in the initial trial, 80% experienced an increase in their grade scores. And predominantly, most of that was because they were taking charge of their own note-taking, and they were getting all the information, and they were finding it much easier to use. The average increase was 2 grade levels, and as you can see there from the bottom line, one student actually improved by 6 grade levels. So we're not tooting our own horn, although we might be tooting our own horn, but we have evidence from the stuff that we've done that this really does make a huge difference. Who's on board? So these are a number of different colleges. I've got a number of different ones here to show you. We have over 60+ US colleges have implemented Sonocent. A huge proportion of the community colleges here in California have it. In fact, they've just bought, 50 colleges who are running the Veterans Program in California have just all implemented 100 licenses for each of their locations. So that's huge. University of Berkeley uses it, University of Central Florida, Hofstra, Madison Area Technical College, Loyola University in Chicago, Tennessee Tech. I've got another University of Nevada, Reno, of course. And I have a quote here, or some information from Darren, who's over at University of Nevada. There's a 3 to 6 month evaluation period where you figure out whether it would actually solve any problems for our students, and that was shortened to about 30 minutes once I saw the product. I could immediately see the value in it. So Darren, when he saw Audio Notetaker, he realized that this product could fix everything. At University of Nevada, Reno, just to give you a bit more information, they have over 500 live scribe pens, which they replace on a yearly basis because of all the damage and everything else. And the cost long term for that was massive and huge. And they were looking for an alternative, and they decided that Sonocent was a good alternative to audio note taker. There are always going to be situations where we still need to use peer note takers. Students who are blind may still have to utilize peer note takers because of the visual nature of audio note taker. So, you know, audio note taker is not the be-all end-all. It's not the only solution. There are still going to be other solutions out there that are going to work for different students. Some students don't work well with audio note taker. They prefer the LiveScribe pen. Some students insist on still taking written notes. You know, there are lots of different solutions. But the key one I always see with most of the people that I'm working with is that we want to give them the independence in the note-taking, because so many students who have learning differences, as soon as they go to college, university, or even through K through 12, are so used to other people doing the information for them that we want to try and create them the ability for them to do their own note-taking, to be a part of that process, to be a part of that learning process. Okay, do we have any questions at this point? I've given a few examples of questions that people might want to know.
Question. This is a legal bubble is interesting. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's mainly in there because one of the big, we have a lot of this, especially in universities, is that some professors don't like students recording. For most of our students, under their goals and under their accommodations, they are given the right to do recording. So that's something we get past. But there will always be professors who think that what they say is, what's the word I'm thinking of now? I can't think of the word. But it's like their legal outpouring. It's important that students do know that if they do get accommodated by recording a lecture, that they have to be careful with what they do with that. If they record something and then post the lecture in a public forum, then they are liable for issues coming back at them. That's not what the design of any recording software is. The design of the recording software is for them to utilize it for their own use. So often it's, you know, within the accommodation at the university or college, it's going to be your accommodation. You can take recordings, but you can only use them for yourself. You're not to abuse the right of recording a lecture. Does that make sense? I got this next question. Does it have the capability to translate the audio to text at all? If you have Dragon on your computer, then yes, you can translate the audio that's inputted into the computer into text. But that doesn't mean the lecturer. I mean, Dragon is very, very good nowadays, and it doesn't need much training at all. But to get a good recording with Dragon, you have to be wearing a headset microphone. And unless the lecturer wears a headset microphone or has a direct recording, then you can't do audio to text with the Dragon built in. The main reason we built in the ability to utilize Dragon with our software was for students who use Dragon who may want to record themselves just as they're recording a lecture and then translate that information from audio to text. So that is something that's possible, but we're really talking about audio to text for the student who's using the software, who may feel more comfortable with responding to and writing their notes with audio as opposed to text writing. I want to thank everybody for listening. You can download a copy of the software from sonosant.com. It's a 30-day trial license that will go onto a Mac or a PC. That's the full-blown product where you do the review work and where you utilize your recordings. And also the Recorder app, which is the iOS and the Android app, is completely free. You can go to the App Store and download Sonosant Recorder to your iPhone and iOS device, or you can go to the Android equivalent of the iOS App Store and download the Sonosant Recorder there, and you can start using the recording function on any of those devices yourself. It's completely free, it never runs out, but to be quite honest, it's only a software that allows you to record, but it's a very good way of understanding how the software will work for a student who wants to record a lecture. Once you've recorded it on your iOS device or your Android device, you will then need to transfer that information to the software that's on the computer, which again I said is a 30-day trial version. As far as cost of the licenses go, the licenses cost individually, if you purchase it, either $85 a year or $250 for a license that doesn't have an expiration date. But the way that most universities and colleges are purchasing it here in the States is they're buying licenses which they can then loan to students, a bit like they loan digital recorders and a bit like they loan out LiveScribe pens to students. Anybody can ask me more information about that. There's my email address if you have any further questions. Again, sonosant.com is the best place to go to for further information. And also, if you want to see videos, I would suggest you go to the youtube.com channel and then put in audio Notetaker in the search box, and you'll find hundreds of videos that can show you more examples of how it is utilized. Thank you.